I can't imagine most people, if you told them in advance, we're going to get you to do one pull-up and it's going to take more than a year, that they'd say, sounds great, sign me up. Everybody wants immediate results. They want to enjoy the process. They want to look better in 90 days. Give me total life transformation, but if it's after day 100, I don't have time for that. So,
you're so right.
How do you get yourself from 0 pull-up to 1 pull-up? How do you get the mindset to keep doing it every day, failing every day until you finally succeed?
Well, it's a process. And as I told you before, I went to a personal trainer because I knew I would hurt myself. I wouldn't know what I was doing. And I still don't know what I'm doing a lot of the times. I'm like, what is that? But that was the most important thing, because I realized that, I'm not going to be able to do a pull-up until I get my arms stronger, my back, my chest. You have to work on the whole body. So I went to him and I said, this is my goal, 5 pull-ups.
I'm here today with Ginny MacColl, who is an actress, a dancer who was formerly on Broadway, and a competitive athlete in the sports of both ninja and swimming. She appeared last year alongside Diane Keaton in the movie Palms. She was a commercial star during the golden 80s of TV commercials, Mr. Clean included, by the way. I want to make sure to mention that. Very important. And at the age of 68, you simultaneously have both been featured in AARP, and you also compete on American Ninja Warrior. Those two things don't usually go together. So, Ginny, first of all, I got to say, you have no idea how excited I am to finally have made this happen.
Oh, thank you so much. And what a great I have nothing more to add to that. You've just told my whole life history. So.
Excellent. Well, then this is going to be a really short conversation, right?
No, that was great. Thank you so much. And I'm delighted to be here with you and your audience.
So I always love to come out of the gate with the really difficult questions first.
Okay.
68 and American Ninja Warrior. Aren't you a little old? Aren't you a little crazy to be doing this stuff? Like, what's going on really? Like, what in the world?
A lot of people say that to me, and I know people that are my age, they look at me strangely when I'm on the set ready to go on competition, and they'll say something like, "You're competing?" And it's like, yep, I am. I'm like, how do they know I'm older? And so I guess the gray hair must give it away. And then the 40-year-olds come and they say, I wish my mom, I wish my dad would do this with me. And then the 20-year-olds are like, gee, I didn't really realize that, when you hit your 50s and 60s, you can do anything anymore. So I like to break those molds and let people know that you can start and you can do this. And you can get stronger as you age. And that's my big motto right there is strength is ageless, whether you're young or you're in 60s or 70s. It's never too late to get stronger. And the health benefits are phenomenal.
Well, I'm a big fan of people that like to do things like you just said, of breaking the mold. Saying, well, this isn't supposed to be possible. The world and culture says I shouldn't be doing it. Don't care, I'm going to figure out how to do it anyway. So my next assumption is that if you're 68 years old running around on the American Ninja Warrior course, you clearly must have been an athlete your entire life, because there's no other possible way that you could be doing this. So I'm sure that you are, Olympic level athlete and professional athlete. So tell us all about all of your athletic accolades.
You are so funny, because I started strength training when I was 63. And I got my first pull-up when I was 64. It took me an entire year because, let me just say this. Women of my generation did not lift weights. I, was the product of the 50s, 60s, and I don't think women even competed in weightlifting until the 70s. It was just not thought of as feminine. And so to get too bulky, it was like, you won't find a husband. So that was, just the thinking of the day. And it still to this day, people feel that way. It's like, I don't want to get too bulky. Whereas now I think people are thinking that healthy is beautiful. Healthy is strong. And it just exudes your health, I think. So you can get started, as late as I did. I did not do sports, to answer your question. But I was a dancer. And I moved to New York to become a dancer. It's very different. I didn't have the upper body strength that you need. but I had the discipline um, to keep going and keep focused in what I wanted to achieve. So like everybody said, oh, you can't go to, I grew up in Tennessee. They said, you can't go to New York and make a living. And, you know, everybody always says those kind of things. You can't do this. And I knew it would take me 3 to 5 years. And it worked. And it's the persistence and the keeping at it. And I got a divorce at one point after my, kids were like, let's see, they're 6 and 8, and had to move out of the city, which was absolutely devastating to me. And I moved to the country, and I'm like, I have to start all over again. And they're like, well, you can't. And by country, I mean the Poconos of Pennsylvania, which was about 2 hours out. So it was very rural and beautiful, but surrounded by woods. And people said, you can't just live there. And it was difficult, but I feel like it's almost like a challenge. It's like another obstacle in front of you. Like, what do you mean I can't do it? Well, certainly I can do this somehow. I can adapt. I can find it. It's like looking at the obstacles and go, well, I can't do this. I've never done it before. So, how can I strategize in order to do it best my way to get through it? And I feel like I've been faced with that many, many times. So when I saw my daughter on American Ninja Warrior, I was just astounded at her grace and strength and health. She's so healthy looking. I said, Jessie, I want to get stronger. And she said, well, do pull-ups. Huh. Well, that was a joke. So there I got my little pull-up bar in my little closet, and I'm like moving away and trying to lift 120 pounds, which was impossible. Pretty much impossible. And I finally just got those little handles where you kind of go up and down. And I sent a video to Jess, and I said, look what I did. And she said, oh, Mom, that's not really a pull-up. You have to go all the way down and all the way up. So I went to a personal trainer, and that's when I started getting stronger. And I didn't want to do it wrong. I didn't want to lift weights and hurt elbows and shoulders and all those things that go wrong when you don't know what you're doing. So I feel that I never did sports, and I didn't learn, like many of the ninja people have, gymnastics and rock climbing and track, tons of those kind of things that are just intuitive to them. So when they swing, they just remember their gymnastics training and do it naturally. For me, I had to learn how to do a swing, and it just never made sense. I mean, I have to go down to bare basics. So it's taken me a lot longer, but again, I've found many health benefits along the way.
So you mentioned, and this just proves one of the reasons why I gravitated to you immediately, and we'll talk more about the story of how you and I met, but the level of humility I love, because you just nonchalantly say, oh yeah, well, I was watching my daughter Jessie compete and decided I want to do a pull-up. So your daughter is, I'm assuming, just some random competitor, Ninja Warrior, was maybe on it once here or there, or like...
It's Jessie Graff, and she's gone farther.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. She's gone farther than any other female on American Ninja Warrior. And she just has everything. I mean, she's the whole package. She has the outfit that just is so unique to her. She has this, she actually went to college and went for engineering. She wanted to be an astronaut. So even that with a rope swing, she sees if it's meant, all the obstacles are meant for you to fall. So they're not necessarily the rope going straight to the platform. The platform may be at an angle. So you have to figure out how to get to that angle. And so she has that mind, that engineering mind that works through the obstacles. So yeah, she has just blossomed doing the show. And I don't know. She blows me away as being so not only strong but just smart.
I do love how you just kind of threw that away, though. Like, the face of the entire sport on all the posters. Oh yeah, my daughter Jessie, she helped me do a pull up. It's like, oh, okay. So I love that. So there are many things that I want to dive deeper into. This idea of discipline, focus, consistency, following through. So many of these things. I can also attest to that firsthand engineering mindset and that focus that Jessie has. I had the pleasure last year, was actually the first time that you and I met, was testing last year at Ninja Warrior, and just chatting with her for 5 or 10 minutes, and she just looked at the obstacle and was dissecting like every little tiny piece, and I was just like, wow, like, you want to talk about the next level of focus and intensity. Like, it blew my mind, and I can obviously see where she got it from. But I think the first part that I want to give people a little bit more perspective on, for anybody that's not familiar with you, that hasn't watched videos of you competing or training, or hasn't seen you in person doing this, I think it's easy to think, oh, well, 68-year-old former dancer and actor, that's amazing. She got her first pull-up, good for her, and she got an American Ninja Warrior. Anybody that has seen videos of you or followed you on Instagram knows that if you went up against me in a competition, you kick my I see you doing stuff that I can't do. So it's not a matter of good on you for doing what most 68-year-old women can't do. You're up against actual athletes, and you're doing just as well or even better than them in some context. So I just want to I want people to understand, like, there's a video that I found. It's a picture of you with a full-on sledgehammer hitting a tire. I'm like, that's an image you don't see every day.
No, it's not. No, that's the fun part about it, is that most of the obstacles, when you accomplish it, when you're able to do it, is such a sense of, I'll just say it again, accomplishment. You've looked at this thing and you go, I don't know, if I've never done that. I don't know if I could do it. And then you finally get it. And it's like, wow, I thought it was impossible, but I did it. If I can do it, you can do it.
Exactly. And if we look back on that mentality, and when you were telling your story, I think the most common word that you used was can't. Everybody telling you can't do this, you can't do that. And obviously your response is to, well, maybe I can't do it yet, but I can do it, right?
Say that a lot. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I want to really dissect and break down this mindset. And you and I talked about this a little bit more, and I'll tell the story maybe a little bit later of how you and I met specifically. But I think the number one lesson that I have learned over the last 2.5 years of me deciding to jump into this world, because I too wasn't an athlete growing up. I played a little football and a little baseball, did some martial arts, but I was not an athlete. Always been a computer nerd, always been a movie nerd. That's always been my thing. And the lesson that I've learned, having jumped into this when I started, is at the age of 38, now the age of 40. I've got kids, got beyond a full-time job, not a whole lot of time to do all of this. But what I've learned is how often I tell myself I can't do something. It's just this voice over and over. Well, you can't do that. Pfft, are you crazy? You can't do this. And I'm continually forced into situations where I have to prove myself wrong. And one of the first, just kind of the biggest aha moments, and it took maybe almost 6 months to a year to get here. But all of a sudden I asked myself the question, wait a second, what else am I telling myself that I can't do? Because I just realized I've been full of shit my whole life. And it just became this whole new world of, instead of thinking I can't do these things, it was, what else am I telling myself I can't do that I can take on next? And I know that you've experienced something very, very similar.
You are so right. We spend the whole day, you should count out how many times you say that during the day. I can't do that. That recipe, it has too many ingredients. I can't do this. Oh, I'd never be able to do that. We do that constantly to ourselves. It's that little negative voice that sits there, and we have to get rid of all that. We have to stop it and, not say we can't, because we can't. We all can do it. It's just, can you commit to it? Can you decide that you're going to do it and then follow through with it? And having a goal is the major thing, I think, in it all. And it has to be an attainable goal. So when I started doing obstacles, I took baby steps. First of all, there's a fear of falling, and you're going to fall all the time. So it's like, the first thing I want to know is how it's like going down a ski slope, right? You want to sit down in the snow and do the snow plow and sit down. You want to know how to fall correctly so you don't go barreling down the hill. And it's the same thing with the obstacle. You want to You know that you can land if you're hanging high, that you can land down and be on your toes and come down right where you're not going to hurt your wrists. So you have to have that understanding of how to get out of your situation if things go wrong. And to fall, you have to learn how to fall correctly. But I also like with the floating steps, which are the angled steps that they have on American Ninja Warrior, and it used to be their first obstacle. They've changed it since. But what we did is we brought them in closer, not the standard distance. And I first looked at it and I went, it's at an angle. I'm going to break my ankle if I jump on that thing. So I tried just jumping on it and down and jumping on it and down, and then took one to the next step. And so I take baby steps. It takes me much longer to accomplish the obstacle, but I break it down and go very slowly until I can work my way up to moving the steps out further and, going with more confidence. Because once you decide to do it, you got to have a commitment. You can't, like, in the middle of the air go, oops, I don't think I can do this. It's not going to work. But when I first stood in front of that audience of American Ninja Warrior, and, it's your turn and you walk up those steps and there are all those people and the lights, and it's in the middle of the night and the water is there and the obstacle looks so different than you ever expected when you're right up there. And that's when it goes, oh no, why did I decide I could do this? I shouldn't be up here. And you can't let that jump into you. You have to fight those negative thoughts all the time. And it's funny, a lot of it is just nervousness. And we have discussions a lot of times, what is nervous and what is excitement? Because sometimes you can change your mindset to think, this is exciting. Instead of like, oh, I can't do this. And I think they did some kind of a thing with the Olympians where they took a poll, and the Olympians, when they looked about ready to compete, they said they were excited. But when you took a person like you and me that are getting up to go into a regional meet, we look at it as, I'm so nervous. And it's more of a negative connotation. So I try to take my breath and focus on exactly what I'm trying to accomplish in that moment, and try to focus on that, not on all the other things that happen.
Yeah, and one of the experiences that I had, and I haven't even gotten to the level where you are yet, where you've actually been on the show. I've only been a tester so far, and I had that same experience where I'd been watching the show on TV for years, and you say, oh, that's really cool. That looks like fun. But you don't really understand the scale of it when you watch it on TV. And I had no idea what I was getting into. I had been doing backyard training and, going to gyms. I've done tons of Spartan races and Tough Mudders. And so that was the scale that I was used to. Then I got onto the course and I ran the first two obstacles as a tester. And I remember just standing up there, like you said, thinking, what have I done? Why am I standing here right now? What have I been thinking? And this is huge, right? Like the one that I remember specifically, and I actually watched you do it first, was walk the plank. So that was the one, for anybody that doesn't know. It's basically a giant seesaw where you're on one end of the seesaw on the bottom end. You're walking up to the middle of it, and then it obviously tips. And before gravity is taken out from under you and you go in the water, you've got to jump and you've got to grab a bar and then swing down another bar and jump and lâcher. Like it's just a whole thing. And I was coming to that testing day feeling pretty confident. And then I got up there and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, this is so not the scale. It's so high up there. And when I watched it on TV, I'm like, that just looks so small on TV. People don't really, because you watch these athletes do it, you're like, oh, that looks like fun. That doesn't look like it would be that hard. But the lesson that I learned that day was, just to kind of double off of what you said, was commitment. Right? You think, oh, I'm not strong enough to do this, or I don't have the forearm strength, or I'm not fast enough. What I learned is that it's so little about the physical part, and it's so much more about the mental part. And like you said, when you're doing a lâcher or swinging or walking up the plank and it goes out from under you, you can't say, oh, hold on a second, I just want to do this at 50% speed. You're either in it or you're wet. Like it's just either of those two things, and bringing that lesson off of the course into life has completely changed the way that I do things, where I've learned that the commitment to something is so much more important than the level of strength or the level of experience. It's the difference between I am going to do this or I'm not going to do it, as opposed to maybe I'll try, I guess. Right. And that makes all the difference in the world. And it sounds like the Ninja Warrior course for you is just another version of you doing that same thing your entire life.
It is. And you also, I think all the training that you do leading up to something like that, like I wouldn't go to testing if I'd never, done any kind of sports or gotten any kind of strength. But it's all the training that you've done when you run to try to catch something. And I'm learning something every day of how to look at an obstacle and figure it out ahead of time. Like, oh, right there, it bounces. I'm going to have to be aware of that. And so you really want to look at it very carefully, decide what you're going to do. And then, like you said, we have to commit. But the strength that you've gained along the way of doing things like it, I may not have ever been on those floating steps on American Ninja Warrior before, but I've tried to be on steps that are like it. And so that you can go in like, well, I've done this before, so I should be able to do this.
They also do a really good job of making you think that you're well prepared, and then they design something that's new and you're like, come on. Like a year of training in this, like I have no idea what to even do with this. So you watch the season, you think, oh yeah, the quad steps or this or that or the other thing, and then you come back the next season, you're like, give me a break. Like really?
And those athletes make it look easy. Like those steps, the very first steps, on the quintuple steps,
mm-hmm.
They just like leap from one to the other. And you go, well, I think I could do that. And then you get up there and it's like, well, that's a lot farther. And boy, they're steeper too. Oh, gosh.
Yeah, it's a whole different world as far as scale and the mental side and the physical side. Absolutely.
They say that the mental is like 80%.
Oh, is it only 80? I would have said like 90% because I learned that real fast. I was like, yeah, physically, I feel like my training has gone well, but mentally, I was not even close to being ready, which actually is a perfect segue to the story of how you and I really kind of, had our getting to know each other party, so to speak, is I had spent the entire year thinking about failing on Walk the Plank. Like I decided at the age of 38, I've got 2 kids, I'm overweight, I spent all my time in front of a computer. Screw it, I'm going to become an American Ninja Warrior. Trained for a year and a half, get the opportunity to test, go on Walk the Plank, splash, done, right? And then that was it. Didn't have another opportunity. You think you're going to go there and get to play around and test stuff out? No, like you maybe get an opportunity, maybe 2, but there's so many people that you lose that opportunity. So that image was in my brain all year, just like it is with any athlete, where maybe, it's a game or an event or whatever it is, and you fail at something, and you're just thinking about that moment over and over and over. The time finally comes to redeem myself, get on the course. You were there as well, where it was just drizzling a little bit. First morning of testing, we're all lined up. Okay, everybody, we're going to go to the first obstacle. We're all there getting ready to go. I think I was maybe 5 or 6 in line to do the floating steps. The first guy runs across, slips on a little drizzle. All right, guys, we're going to have to just, close things down for a few minutes, make sure that it's safe, wipe things down. And then torrential downpour for the next at least 6 to 8 hours. And you and I are just staring 10 feet away from the obstacles that we spent an entire year training to get on. And it's just like holding candy in front of a 5-year-old, like just the carrot on the stick. You're like, oh my God, a whole year. And I can physically touch the obstacle and I can't go on it. And then what I want to take out of this is the idea of finding opportunity in every situation. Because that day could have sucked. I mean, it was cold, it was windy, it was rainy. And not only that, but just to add fuel to the fire, that was also the day that we found out firsthand on set, hey guys, no more American Ninja Warrior. We're shut down because of the coronavirus. And of the 2.5 years that I've spent training for American Ninja Warrior, that day is my favorite ninja memory. Because you and I spent the whole afternoon just chatting about life, and I had so much fun.
Yes.
And I could have been so disappointed about that day. And there was still some disappointment about having spent so much time training and being 35 seconds away from getting to run the obstacle again and redeem myself. But we find the opportunity in every situation, and you've had to find ways to do that more than once as well. So I want to go back in time. There are a couple of places I want to go much deeper into your story. The first of which, that you already alluded to a little bit, is this idea of having to go through a very painful divorce, and you become a single mom with kids that are 6 and 8. So take me back to that time, because you had been a dancer, things were really going well for your career, and now all of a sudden you're thinking, well, I guess I gotta sell advertising for radio. I don't know what to do. So talk to me about going back in that period of time, which was rather difficult, and what the mindsets were that helped you get through it.
Well, I want you to keep in mind that sometimes those awful things, the worst things that happen to you, lead to the greatest opportunities, which is what you just said too. And I think overall it did. But I was at the top of my career in New York City. I had the kids, I was married. We had a house in the country that we would escape New York City, which I think a lot of people have been escaping the city these days.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing commercials. I'd been on Broadway. I did the show Pippin in 1973 through 76. Got to play an understudy of a lead in it, as well as dance. And it was like the top of the top. So being the understudy to a lead on a Broadway show was the most exciting thing ever. And I got to go on for 2 weeks straight. And I would walk down Broadway going, I'm playing a lead in a Broadway show. I mean, it can't get any better than this. It was just a terrific time. And then I started doing TV commercials. And this was during the 80s, so there were no DVRs. So people actually watched these, and they were classics. They're on YouTube right now. You can see a bunch of them, and they're so much fun to watch. But all those things were doing good. And then it started, I hit like 45, and my auditions went down. I was just not the right age anymore. They started sending me on Gas X and hemorrhoids and Depends. But besides that, the amount of auditions went down terrifically. So I was not working as much. So the monetary was going down at the same time as now we had a divorce at hand. And we couldn't stay in the city and do the private schools. So I moved out to the house in the country, which is in the Poconos, and it was on the lake. It was a beautiful lake. It was a beautiful place, but it was very remote. And we were like surrounded with 400 acres. It was, and people didn't stay there in the wintertime. So I soon found that it was very difficult living, and it was hard to find a job. Now, never having done anything besides acting and dancing, I'm like, what do I do? So here we are in this house, and now I have the kids. I'm getting them into school, and it's like I ran down and I went, what do I do? Nobody would hire me with 2 kids, thinking that I would not show up many times. So I went to the bookstore and I just cried. I said, you have to hire me. And they hired me at $5.15 an hour. That didn't take me very long. That didn't help. So I had to start teaching dance. And that's when Jessie took all my classes. And I taught tons of classes. I could bring the kids with me. It was usually after school, obviously, for the kids, to teach kids and adults as well. So that started coming into play, but it was the weather that was so crazy. We had blizzards. We were like stuck back in this house with no one around for like a week at a time, sometimes without power. So we didn't have TV, cable. We had TV, but not cable. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have computers. So the kids played outside all the time. They made teepees in the woods. It was a different kind of lifestyle for them. Lot happened around the lake in the summertime, but in the wintertime, it was hard to make a living. It was hard to get through a day, really, with all the things that needed to be done. There are a couple of stories, like my bat story, which I love to tell. And that was when, the bat was in the house, and I told the kids, get into this bedroom. I'm putting a towel underneath it. And if I start screaming, don't worry about it. I'm fine. I've got to get this bat. He went down, got the badminton rackets, and I'm wailing and everything, trying to get the bat, not getting in my hair, and I was getting nowhere. It was like I'm expending energy, screaming my head off. And I went, okay, I have to figure this out. I'm not going to sleep here with a bat in the house with kids here. I have to get this bat. And so I took a moment and I was able to herd him into the kitchen, saw him a little upside down, tiny little thing in the corner, was able to whack him, get him out of there. And it was there. That kind of a situation was like, there's nobody else here to take care of it. You have to do it, and you have to find out a way to do it. And that was a continual situation. Like with the blizzard, I would take Jessie and I'd push her out the window and she would tunnel through the snow, and then we would start to shovel the snow off the roof because the roofs were falling in at that time. I don't know if you remember that, but there was so much snow. So there were these, how do you deal with keeping the fire going? We'd take the water from the lake. My other favorite story is my son got real ill at one of these blizzards with the electricity out. And he needed medicine, and nobody could get back to my house, nor could anybody get out. So I found a friend to bring the medicine to the closest house, and I cross-country skied to that person to get the medicine and cross-country skied back. And again, it was like, well, I can't do anything to help you, Darren. Am I going to leave him like that, or figure out a way? How am I going to get that medicine to him? There has to be a way. And so, it was just that kind of thing. And with the kids, it was bringing them up to find the fun in everything. We would find games that we could do and play. Like, what are you going to do if a bear comes into the kitchen? How are we going to get out of the house? Or if a hurricane comes, what are we going to do? Where do we go? And we would come up with these, different scenarios of having to figure life out.
Well, it's certainly no mystery then, knowing that some of the games that were played growing up were, hey, kids, if a bear comes in the house, how are we going to escape it? The natural progression of Jessie ending up as an American Ninja Warrior makes a lot more sense to me now.
Oh, and she used to play The Floor is Lava a lot, too. So that. Yeah.
Well, one of the realizations that I had recently, and I'm sure that I was the last person to realize it, you guys talk about it all the time, but it just occurred to me, I'm like, oh, my God. American Ninja Warrior is just The Floor is Lava for adults. That's all it is, right? It's that simple. It's just we want to keep playing this game and just make it bigger and harder and, more difficult. But it's basically The Floor is Lava for, adults.
Yeah, so we got that. Now let's make it harder. What do we do to make it harder? Let's jump higher, further.
Exactly, yeah. So one of the more serious parts of the story that I really want to extract that I think is so important for people to understand is when you said, I guess I'm just going to have to figure this out, right? You're in a situation where you don't really have other options. You don't want to be in the situation. You don't want to have to deal with the bat or getting the medicine in the snowstorm and cross-country skiing, but you don't really have options. You can't choose the more comfortable, simpler option. This is reality. I'm going to have to figure something out. I'm thinking that given present circumstances, this might be a useful mindset for other people to adopt. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. In fact, I just had a conversation with Jessie the other day about how we needed to be sure you have your plan B. Always have a plan B. And so I have a box that's always packed and ready in case we needed to leave in a hurry with, the hurricanes that hit here in North Carolina. But you have to have, I like to have plans. I like to have goals too. Goals are huge with me. Every day I have to have a goal that I have to accomplish. Well, or I don't feel good if I don't.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same way, and I think that that's something that's a lot harder for people to focus on right now. A lot of the people that I talk to, it's like, well, what's the point? Why focus on career advancement, or why focus on getting strong and fit if I can't go to the gym, or what's the point of even training for American Ninja Warrior if they're not going to be shooting for another year, or whatever it is. Like, we don't know the circumstances, but it just seems so much harder to stay focused and motivated when basically the entire world is shut inside, and it's like, what's the point? So how do you set goals and stay motivated if you're being told you got to stay home and you can't go to the gym and you can't compete?
I actually have gotten myself in a nice little pattern, and found things. I take a online class. I mean, look at how many people have adapted to it with the Zoom and Skype classes, whatever. Um, but I take online exercise classes in the morning, every morning at 9. I mean, I plan it the night before because I don't want to give myself an excuse not to do it. If I have one excuse not to do it, then that gives me an excuse not to do another one. So I try to be very, very, patterned about it. So I think about, what is the class I'm going to take? Okay, it's going to be strength training. Great. And when I'm going to get dressed and come up and sit there with my online class for an hour. So I always do that. But there are lots of other things that you can do. Like I work out going up and down a bridge ramp. It's the ramp underneath the bridge that's very steep, and it's to Oak Island. So there's this huge bridge that goes over to Oak Island, and there's a ramp underneath it, and I run up and down it. So I posted it on Instagram, and I got some comments about how to come down correctly too. So that was great. Hey, I'm a hiker. You should do it in a zigzag. Or somebody said, try it doing lunges backwards. So now I have more ways of doing it, and I think my legs are getting stronger. They have to be. I counted 28 kind of running leaps up, steps up, and then coming down slower, of course. And I did it 10 times today. And that is, I think, going to help me get up that warped wall. So that's really a nice feeling, like I'm going to come out stronger with this. I don't have any ninja gym near me, but those kind of finding those things and what you can do to help yourself when there's nothing else around is a great thing. I happen to be lucky that I have a friend who also was on American Ninja Warrior, an older gentleman who's built some obstacles in his front yard. So I am able to actually work with them, and we're taking them and finding new ways to use the same obstacles that we have. And that's been fun as well. So, there's a lot of other things that you can do when it comes to, exercise. There's biking, there's running or jogging or walking. But for me, it's a passion now. It's become, when I've seen what the health benefits are, and if you don't mind me zigzagging into the health benefit that I actually experienced, was I had osteopenia, which is the step before osteoporosis. And it's quite common as you age that you lose your bone mass. In fact, Americans lose it like 1% to 2% of their bone mass per year as you get older. And so after lifting weights for 2 years, I had the bone density test, and I had reversed it. It went from osteopenia to normal. It changed significantly. And when I found that out, I went, I've got to shout this out to people. Why wait till you have osteoporosis or osteopenia? A lot of these things, you don't know what's happening. I mean, you don't feel that you're losing bone mass. Maybe muscle you can see, but bone mass you don't know necessarily. And if you do this, it's just you have to do the work. You have to do it in order to be healthy as you age. And so the strengthening that the bones get. So what happens is the exercise produces testosterone, which converts to estrogen, and there are estrogen receptors in your bones. And that's what makes the bones stronger. Jogging would do it. I mean, there are many different ways to do that, whether it's, push-ups, just lifting your own body, or pull-ups, or using weights. So all those things they're just essential. You got to start doing it now. You just have to. Don't wait. And you can do it as late, like with resistance bands. You can do that as late as 90. I've seen plenty of people that have done that kind of thing. So the statistics are awful. It's like 20 million American women have osteoporosis. So 1 in 2 women over 50 will get a fracture from osteoporosis. And they're like 300,000 hip fractures a year. I mean, it's just stunning. So if you can fix it, why wouldn't you? And so that's the message I want to get out there. I'm trying to do it right now with the same thing. Exercise is great for your arteries. It keeps, when you think of the aerobics and the moving and the jogging and the fast walking, which is what I suggest to people who don't, why should I don't, there's nothing to do. There's walking, there's jogging, there's, doing the combination of both, getting your heart rate up, getting the circulation going. I have some blockage in my carotid artery, and they don't want to do anything with it until it gets to a certain place because it's dangerous to do any kind of things like that. So I sitting there going, well, I guess there's nothing I can do about it. And then I went, wait a minute, if I reverse the bone mass, the bone density, then why can't I reverse the plaque? So I started reading more and more about it that, obviously I get the exercise. So now I've changed my diet, and I'm, why not? Maybe I can do that too. Maybe I can fix that. But again, if you think about these things now and you think about the diet and the simple things that you can do to change to not get the cholesterol up, and the exercise is huge in that because that builds your HDL, the good stuff, and the cholesterol that fights the bad stuff. So if you could do these things, you'll have a much better life going forward.
I could not agree more with all of that. I could frankly talk about this for 4 hours, but I have a different soapbox that I need to stand on if we're going to have that conversation for 4 hours. I left that in the other room. And I mean, everything you said is absolutely spot on. But here's the reality that I've learned from years and years of shouting this stuff from the rooftops. People already know a lot of this stuff. They don't know all of it,
true.
right? Sure. But if you and I were to talk about, well, did you know that exercising and moving more and eating more vegetables and less cookies would make you healthier? I had no idea. That's what it takes to be healthy. I'm shocked, right? That's not, I mean, when we get into the nuances, you're absolutely right. There are a lot of people that just accept, well, I've got osteoporosis. I guess I have to drink more milk and take my calcium pills, and fingers crossed, I get healthier. And once again, it's this theme of, well, you're telling me I can't. I'm going to show you that I can. But I find that the magic that I see over and over and over with people that are successful is consistency. Right? You don't have access to more information that other 68-year-old women don't, or other 45-year-old men don't. We all have access to the same information. It's those that take action, but even more importantly, it's those that take action consistently. And it is my life's work to understand and deconstruct how people maintain consistency. So I want to go back to a very specific point in your journey, which you already talked about, which is the journey from 0 to 1 pull-up. I can't imagine most people, if you told them in advance, we're going to get you to do 1 pull-up and it's going to take more than a year, that they'd say, sounds great, sign me up. Everybody wants immediate results. They want to enjoy the process. They want to look better in 90 days. Give me total life transformation, but if it's after day 100, I don't have time for that.
So, you're so right.
How do you get yourself from 0 pull-up to 1 pull-up? How do you get the mindset to keep doing it every day, failing every day until you finally succeed?
Well, it's a process. And as I told you before, I went to a personal trainer because I knew I would hurt myself. I wouldn't know what I was doing. And I still don't know what I'm doing a lot of the times. I'm like, what is that? But that was the most important thing, because I realized that, I'm not going to be able to do a pull-up until I get my arms stronger, my back, my chest. You have to work on the whole body. So I went to him and I said, this is my goal, 5 pull-ups. That's what I want to do. Now, I thought that was an attainable goal. But what happened is when you start feeling the strength that you're gaining, and then what people will say to you, like, oh, you look like you're getting pretty toned. I just perk up and feel real good about that. I mean, who wants to stop when you're starting to look good in strength? So it took 7 months to reach that point where I could literally see a difference. And unfortunately, most people stop their training program at 6 months. Oh, if they could only stick it out that next one. No, I'm just kidding, but it's different for everybody. I had no upper body strength. I had nothing. So that takes a while. to do, but I kept up at it because it made me feel good, and I could see the changes, but it took a while to see that. It was also a very creative kinds of things that we did. We took the sledgehammer against the tire. We pulled the sled. I mean, these things like that, I'd never done in my life. It was kind of fun and challenging. So after 7 months, seeing that kind of change, it was really exciting to just stick with it. But I think it's having a goal that is attainable. It's not like, oh, I have to do 20 pull-ups. It's each one. It's also having somebody there keeping you accountable. That was big for me. But it's a purpose. And then the other thing is, a lot of people decide they want to, but very few people commit. So you have to have a commitment to it, whatever it is, because there's tons of different things that you can get into, whether there's bike riding or kayaking or paddleboarding or tennis. There's so many things. You just have to find the right one, or go to classes, go to CrossFit, go to, and work your way up. And don't compare yourself to others, and don't expect that you're going to get it in a month or two. Know that it may take 7 or 8 months to get that goal that you want. And then being consistent, I think, forms a habit. Like I said earlier, I don't want to skip a day taking the classes, because that just gives you an excuse to not go to another one. So I try to plan ahead and know, okay, I'm going to wear this, I'm going to take this class, and I'm going to be gone doing that for an hour. And then I can get other things done. Usually for me, it's in the morning. When I was doing radio, after that whole process in the Poconos, I devised like a 20-minute program I did every single day that was just like crunches and stretches, and I had 23 push-ups that I did. And so it was just something that you did. You don't even think about it. You just do it. It's a habit, like brushing your teeth, or you don't even think about what side of the bed you're going to sleep on when you go to bed. You just do it. It's just part of your life. And I guess then you just have to build on that, because it may be that you walk 20 minutes 3 times a week, and then you build it up so you're walking faster, and then you get your heart rate up. You may jog a little bit, start fast walking, do it 5 days a week. And then you just, like I said, you just build on that and get stronger. And then maybe there are other things that you want to add to it. And like me, if it's me or my kids, we like to make it fun somehow. So I find one great thing is finding a workout buddy. It's so much more fun to do obstacles when you can watch somebody else. Oh, that's a great idea. I should try that. Or what were you doing? What made you get that I didn't get? So, and walking, sitting there chatting with somebody else is a wonderful way to do it. But I think that if you can plan it day by day, but you also can look and see where do you want to be in a year? Where do you want to be in 2 years? And I think when you map that out in your head, then you've started a plan. Now you have to do it. You have to commit to it. And I think those little steps that you take in the beginning, whether it's 3 times a week, 20 minutes each time, lead to big changes. And it's really going to decide the quality of the rest of your life. So, get moving and then keep at it. Does that answer your question at all? I think
it does, and then some.
A little bit of a plan.
You've done all of my work for me, which I very much appreciate. If I were to break that down very simply, the first one is accountability. Gotta have people that you're doing it with, you're accountable to, whether it's a friend, whether it's a workout buddy, whether it's a personal trainer. That's huge, right? The next one that I think was so important is this idea of setting small but attainable goals. Because if it's a matter of I've never done a pull-up, so my next goal is I'm going to get up the warped wall in American Ninja Warrior, There's a lot in between those two things, right? But you're setting these small goals of just 1 pull-up, then 5 pull-ups, then a lache, then a longer lache, then I'm going to do cliffhangers, then I'm going to do walk the plank, right? But it's these small progressions. And I think the other thing to extract from here that's so important, has been a huge lesson for me, is that if you don't enjoy the process, you're never going to get to the result. The process itself has to be fun. I mean, ninja training, like, you can either look at it as, well, another day of nothing but failure, or, man, another day of nothing but failure. How much fun was that? Right? And that, once you take that approach, it makes it so much easier to stay consistent, because you're not just focused on the fact that you haven't reached a goal. You're looking at the process, and it's so much fun, right? But there's one further layer that I think is really important to talk about if you're willing to dive into one more concept before we go. And I think that you also have to have a much deeper why. So I'm assuming that there's a deeper layer beyond, I want to be in good shape, I want to avoid breaking a hip, I've got osteopenia, and I want to reverse bone density. But I'm guessing there's a deeper why that's the undercurrent of everything that has driven you towards, instead of saying I can't, I'm just going to have to figure it out until the point where I can. What's the deeper why for you?
Wow, that's a pretty heavy question. The deeper why, some of it just evolves. I always said, acting and dancing was just like a trunk of a tree, and it just evolves. There are branches that you take in life that you may not have expected to be there, but it's like, American Ninja Warrior. Well, that'd be fun. That's interesting. And you take these little different branches. And that's sort of how that's turned out. But once I get a hold of something, I want to be the best at it. I don't want people to go, oh, she's great for 68. No, I want to be as good as some of the 20 and 30-year-olds. I mean, there's no reason I can't, right? I mean, I think I want to excel at it. I want to excel at it. I don't have to be the Jessie, the best of the best, but I want to be at a strong level. I used to always say to her, I wish I kept it dancing to be the very best of the best, like an Olympian. Go to the Olympics, but I never did, because I acting, dancing, different levels and layers that I took. What would it take to be the very best at something? And so, it may be something else. It may not be the dancing. It may not be the acting, or maybe it'll become the acting, because that, as you know, I started back to acting, and when I retired as a granny, but there was a 20-year lapse in my acting there.
And anybody that wants to see a 68-year-old be a cheerleader and do the splits, check out Palms. Great movie.
It was a fun movie. It was a great cast. But it's like, just, I don't know, it's like those little attainable goals. And if you keep at it, I think it's the persistence. If you're a dancer and you're an actress, you're used to rejection. And, in ninja, you have a lot of falls. And I think a lot of it is just, you can take all that rejection, but you're focused on where you're going. Maybe that's what it is like you have like we were saying, a goal, a purpose. You have, okay, now that I've started this Ninja Warrior, I don't want to just, be a failure at the first obstacle. I want to get through 3 obstacles, and maybe the next time 4 obstacles. So it's my goal keeps going out a little bit further. I got 1 pull up, so my new goal was 3, and then it became 5, and then it maybe became 8, maybe 10. Now I'm up to 15. The goal keeps going out further, but it's a very hard question to answer, because I think I just have a absurd determination to keep at it. Now, I fell in a American Ninja Warrior on the first obstacle, and I was devastated. I thought I'd let everybody down. My family, Jessie, seniors. It just slipped and happened, and boom, there I was, boom, 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 in the water. And it took me a long time, because it's one thing to fail in front of, your friends or at a regional, but in front of everybody, it was pretty awful. But, you learn from those and you go, well, I'm enjoying doing it. I'm going to get up. I could just sit back and do something else. But no, I've got to conquer those steps. And that's why I started testing, was because then I would get on the obstacles and get a little bit more used to being in front of the producers. And I'm not going to let that obstacle beat me. And so I want to just keep planning. I want to see if I can get stronger. I didn't know I could get stronger. So maybe I can continue to get stronger. I'm going to just keep going there until something tells me it's time to move on to the next thing. But my determination will take me pretty far. I mean, when you think about it, as going from Tennessee to New York City when I was 20, I think that's a huge step and a huge determination to, this is what I'd like to do and I'm going to do it. And the same thing happens throughout life is, okay, this is the best area for me to be in, and I'm going to pursue that. And it took, I've been down here in North Carolina for, 5 years. Took me 3 years before I was able to get my first job in acting again. So nothing, success takes a lot of time, and there are a lot of falls along the way, but it's the lessons you learn along the way. And that keeps you going. Like I'm enjoying what I'm doing. If I start to not enjoy it, then, maybe I have to rethink it. Maybe there's something else out there for me. But at this point, let me see how far I can go. Let me test my limits. Maybe there are no limits. Maybe I'll be hanging by the fingertips in stage 3. Who knows what's possible?
I love all of that, and I think that one of the coolest things that I always like to look at is the ripple effect of those kinds of decisions, and the fact that you're setting these goals, you're so determined to reach them. Clearly, it is very obvious how Jessie became the person that she is now and how she has succeeded. And you look at the effect that both you have had on the world and the effect that she has had on the world, and the multitude of people that are changing their direction in life because they saw her, or the little girls that are saying, I want to be her, I feel empowered, I feel strong, right? Like a lot of that just comes from you as a 20-year-old or a 25-year-old or a 30-year-old saying, well, got to figure out how to get the medicine. Guess I'm going to have to learn how to cross-country ski. No other way around it. The obstacle's in front of me. I'm going to have to figure it out, right?
Right.
And just that one mentality has had a ripple effect on so many people in such a positive way.
I remember one family came up to me about Jessie, and they were saying, hey, I just want you to know that my daughter was watching her on TV and turned to him and said, do you think I could do that? And he said, sure. There it is in front of you. We didn't know. We don't know the limits of what we can do. And we've listened to all these things that people tell us a lot of times, whether it's on advertising or it's in Hallmark, you're gone after age 30, you're downhill. You listen to these things like, women don't lift weights. But, there's things out there that you can do. You certainly can do them. And maybe they aren't necessarily right all the time. So, see how far you can go. Have fun with it. Dream your dreams. Follow through with those dreams. They're important to have.
Well, if ever there was a time to use the mentality of this is my reality and I guess I have to figure it out, we're in the perfect position, right? Nothing but time to figure all of it out.
Exactly.
Right. So that having been said, I don't want to take up any more of your time, want to be respectful of it, but my goodness, was this a lot of fun. I knew it would be for all the time that I wanted to make it happen. This was everything I hoped it would be and more. I cannot thank you enough for being with me today, Ginny. If people are inspired by you, they want to find you on Instagram or website, or they want to reach out and ask you questions, what's the best way for people to find you?
It's just my name, but it's spelled. Both my names are
it's a bit of a doozy.
Yeah, it's Ginny is Ginny, and MacColl is Maccoll. So that's I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram, and I would love to know if anybody got inspired enough to get up and start moving. I would love to hear about it. I try to respond to everybody, but it's it makes me feel so great, and it inspires me in turn. When somebody says, you made me feel that I need to and I can do this, then I go, oh wow, I can do this some more. I've got to talk to more people. I've got to do more and show more. So if people say, if she can do it at age 68, I can do it.
Well, you're already talking to one person that can say all of that to you, because every time that I feel like I don't want to do something, don't want to do a workout, can't do this, all right, fine, what's Ginny up to? All right, I'll shut up now. I'll go back to training, whatever. So yeah, so I'm definitely on that list. But this has been an absolute pleasure. I cannot thank you enough for being here with me today.
You're welcome, and to all your audience as well. Thank you for listening.